Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Midday Market Report for Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. Our weekly trip across the border, and just a quick FYI, brutal chest cold / allergies that we're trying to muscle through here. The show must go on. Idle times don't do us any justice here. So I don't pass up any opportunity to talk with Andrew, especially when the NHL started last night. 2 games on the docket, and we got a handful tonight. So definitely want his impressions and thoughts early on these games. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
Afternoon, Andrew. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I mean, yesterday felt like Christmas Day, but just 2 games, 2 exciting games, and a lot more to offer today. So looking forward to it, looking over some props and different things, and just excited to have hockey back. It's a busy time of year in general for sports, but that gets me a little more excited to be able to watch the Habs play at the Bell Center, which is right behind me, and get the season off. So I hate hearing you're not feeling well though, man. We'll try and make it a quick show, but an informative show. How about that?
That would be okay. Like I says, I would rather spend, a half hour, 45 minutes with you than sitting around and, just not feeling well, but at least this helps. How's that sound?
Right. I remember when I had COVID, I was still doing my podcast, and I would do one for like 45 minutes. And the second I was done, I would just pass out pretty much. I was so tired. Like sometimes, like you said, it feels good to if you're not feeling well, even to still do things. But then afterwards, it kind of hits you. You're just fatigued. But you know what? Then you can earn your couch time for later. You can earn your TV watching time.
Well, here's the funny is after the show, I'm supposed to have a conference call. And here's the real kicker. I'm supposed to make my debut tonight at 11:12 on Sports Grid with Dubsy. And I've been dying for this opportunity. And I just like last night, I, got all my meds and I was, trying to fall asleep. When you're sick, when you want to fall asleep, you can't sleep. And then I'm sitting there staring at the clouds. But today I have to be awake. Mm-hmm. And that's when I'll be trying to fall asleep,
That's exciting, though. So you're on with Dubsy for like an hour or two, or what's your guys' segment?
It looks like I'm just going to be on the first segment with him and Joe. I have to pass the test, though. My setup has to pass the microphone and all that stuff. We are within a whisker of getting the office and the studio set up this weekend. So that once that's up, hopefully everything goes. And I'm excited, but on the same token, again, I'm not 100%, but believe me, if I say no and I wait a week, that week will never come,
All they want is winners. That all they want. They want to have some fun, but you give out some winners to their viewers, they'll be happy, whether you're energetic while doing it or not. And I can see where you are behind you, and where I am behind me, at least. Your guys are playing tonight. I've talked them down quite a bit. What are you thinking for your guys tonight?
It's funny because I'm looking at the board, and it's sad in this regards. You said that your Habs are not going to be that good this year, and they're playing the Leafs, obviously, who's supposed to be real, real good. Yet, you're plus 210 at home, okay? Then I scrolled down, and we've talked how bad the Blackhawks are going to be, potential, maybe the worst in the NHL. I know the Avs are the Stanley Cup champs. Minus 400 to start the opening night, okay?
Yeah.
It's 60 minutes. It's the first game. If there was ever a wink, wink, hey, can
Yeah.
you do us a favor? This would be it. And then I look at the Bruins, an overnight number of Caps minus 120, 131 ish. They open it up, and in comes the Caps money right now at, let me see here. Let me go to Circa. Circa right now, minus 131. You can get the Bruins plus 120, a 6 under minus 20. Now, initial gut is Washington. I just know from the preseason. I know from the talks. I know what, with no McAvoy, Bergeron, and all that. This is where I turn to you and say, hey, isn't this number a little low, Andrew?
Oh, it is. It definitely is. Like, I mean, as far as you think it's like expensive on the Capitals, right? Or you think it's low on the Capitals?
I think it's low on the Capitals.
Oh, I see. Like there's been some movement, hasn't there? On it, I see. Like the thing for me is I'm more comfortable on the over, just because, kind of. I'm going to use your own lingo against you here. It's 60 minutes, right? If there's ever going to be a time where the Bruins look decent, I think it'll be early for maybe the first week, and then they'll kind of fall apart. But I trust their defense to allow a few and their offense to show up more than I trust, them to win the game.
Okay.
But I don't know if I want to lay that with Washington out the gate. I don't know. See, to me, if you ask me who's going to win the game, I'd probably tell you Washington, but do I want to lay that with them? I don't think I do. That's why I like the over 6. You could have gotten 5.5, but a couple weeks ago, it did start to move at DraftKings and other sports books. But I think a big thing is that the forward groups are relatively healthy. Besides Marchand, I think the Capitals are relatively healthy. And one thing with them, you think back last year in the playoffs, they in the first round, they actually kind of impressed me, right? But they actually allowed a lot of shots, a lot of chances. They needed their goaltender to play big. So if they allow that many shots and chances, and you've got, a Bergeron and Pasta, and David Krejci's back, I'm sure he'll want to make a name for himself again, even though everyone knows what he's capable of. And Taylor Hall, there's a lot of guys, a lot of options for them. It's hard for me. I'll tell you what, Jeff, I would way rather have this over at 5.5 than 6, because I was talking about this earlier with somebody. What are your thoughts as far as juice on totals? I've always had a different thought process compared to sides and totals on that. The way I look at it is this: if I'm low volume that night or that week, then I want to take the juice and get the better number. If I'm playing a bunch of 5.5s minus 125s, I got to turn a couple of them into 6s because it's too much risk, I think. What about you? Because I think that there's key numbers, right? 5.5, the 6 again versus the 6.5. But like, how far are you willing to? I feel like DraftKings is the worst for that. I mean, sometimes they'll give you a 5.5 at like minus 130 before they even move to 6 to just try and give you the, bet that bad price.
You're 100%. I got caught yesterday in the MLB. So when we're talking team totals, and now you're talking NHL over-unders. Perfect example yesterday. The Braves team total was 4.5 juiced under minus 140. So I could have got the Braves team total over 4.5 plus 120. Now it was a 3-run homer in the ninth. It was a gift. Okay. So that I'm glad you're saying it this way, because when I look at team totals and I look at overs, I try to grab the plus money. So
Right.
I was going to throw you the lob and say this: you lean Washington to win, yet they're giving you an under over a 6. So would you rather lay the minus 130 for Washington just to win, or 6 over minus 120 or 125?
Right. And that's why, like, I mean, that there's all kinds of games we can look at like that for tonight. Like, I really like the over in Chicago, Colorado. I think early in the season, the best way to go with these lopsided, like, look, I don't have any data to back this up, right? Any stats, but this is just out of my head. When you look at a lot of these totals at 6.5, because how often do you see a team that's a massive, massive favorite, like higher than 300, but the total's at 5.5? You don't see it, right? Because they're expecting that favorite to put up probably 5 goals. Their team total is over 4.5 at least most of the time. Some maybe 3.5, but so you look at like the Colorado and Chicago game. Of course, there's a ceremony pregame, but new goaltender in town for Colorado. We've got Chicago. Everyone thinks they're going to suck, but for the first month of the season, maybe they stick around for a while, and they still have Kane and Taves. Lots of players like Domi and Athanasiou that want to prove themselves. Everyone's going to be just loading up on Colorado. Wouldn't shock me if it's 1-1 after one, 2-1 Chicago after one. It really wouldn't shock me. And then all of a sudden, if you're a puck line better, right, you're sweating it out. And could you imagine if Colorado wins something like 5-4 tonight? The books will be laughing, because a lot of people are going to be playing the puck line, and even the puck line is a bad price. That's what's funny about these. You'll see parlays tonight: puck line on the Leafs, puck line on the Canes, and puck line, on Colorado. Not every team is going to cover that, but in general, just like, I got to pull it up here. Like, what are you seeing right now for the puck line for the Avalanche?
Puck line on the Avs. Let me go over here for you. Minus 143.
Yeah. I see at one book 155.
Yeah.
So again, I can get 6.5 at minus 115, and essentially, I'll put it this way: realistically, I'm asking Chicago to score 2, maybe 3, right? And that's how I feel even about the Canadiens game. Is like, one bet that stood out to me right away, and this, and I don't want your viewers to think I'm biased because I'm a Canadiens fan. I don't bet on them that often. I honestly was thinking about over 2.5 team total goals for the Canadiens, because it's going to be one of those opportunities where I could take over 7, but if the Leafs win 4-3, that means the total is pretty sweaty. Nobody's really seen the Montreal offensive core yet. The entire preseason, Martin St. Louis didn't show his cards at all. He had a different lineup every night, but it was a mixture of a lot of rookies. They were one of the last teams to really make their cuts. And I think there was a lot of decisions to be made about them, because they're obviously going to be a bottom feeder this year. So it's just interesting. I'm very interested this year, Jeff, out the gate in October, how teams like Philadelphia, Chicago, Montreal, even a team like San Jose does out the gate performance-wise, because you can make money on them just as much as you can make money against them if you select it the right. Like, for example, the bad teams still have to have shots on goal. The bad teams still have to have shooters. So if they're, getting blown out every night, but they're putting 29, 28 shots on net, who's shooting the puck? There's going to be someone that's going over 2.5 shots on goal every game. And it's like we always say, if you and I go to dinner and we're celebrating a win on a bet, the bartender and the server is not going to ask us, well, was it a side or total? Hey, the props all cash the same, And I find that so interesting. Like, you look at a guy like Troy Terry for the Anaheim Ducks. 11 of his last 13 games, he's hit his over 2.5 shots on goal. The Anaheim Ducks could get absolutely obliterated tonight, but he could have 3 or 4 shots. And I just find that so interesting with how betting has changed and how you can approach winning with bad teams.
And I just, as you were talking, I pulled up the team totals. So when I'm going to the team totals, I want to look for the plus money, because these numbers are so shaded on which way they want you to bet. Mm-hmm. So for an example, in your Boston and Washington, okay, Bruins over 2.5 minus 150, and Washington 3.5 under minus 145. Now, to me, you could take Washington team total over 3.5 plus 125 and get the empty netter, and it lands on 4-2. They're wanting you to take the Bruins team total over 2.5, and they're laying minus 150. To me, do they get to 3? Maybe. But I'm not going to lay the 150. Vegas is like baiting you to say, oh, they're going to get to 3. Come on down. If they're going to get to 3, then Washington's going to get to 3. So then you're going to get your over, and the final score's 4-3.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't want to be sweat. I mean, look at the game last night. You know, I had one official pick with the clients on the Rangers, and I was happy to win that one. But I also was talking about all day the over in the late game. 1-1 going into the third period. Imagine if you were sweating that one out. And, you know, you're looking at that game thinking, what the hell am I doing with these team totals, right? Like that's just, but it goes to show that sometimes team totals might be the way to go. And I notice you do it a lot with baseball. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to definitely get into it this year. You know, Carolina, you know, their team total, you look at Washington, it's just, those are good opportunities. You know, I got to talk to Ralph Michaels about this because I don't know if he tracks the team total stuff, but I wonder how often, you know, a minus 200 and above favorite wins and covers their team total. That'd be really interesting to track. You know, Colorado minus, you know, 400 or higher tonight. Will they go over 4.5 goals?
And they're giving you plus money. So
Yeah.
again, if you wanted to get into that game, okay, they're going to give you plus 120 on over 4.5. So you need 5 goals. I mean, and Chicago 2.5 under minus 150. So it doesn't take Einstein to say that Vegas is telling you 4-2 here, 4-1, 3-2. I mean, any way you try to get in there. So a minus 400, like you said, all those parlay cards, you know, they're going to have the Avs minus 400. It is what it is. But most of the people are going to say, the hell with it. I'm going to get the puck line. It's only minus 145. And Vegas is like, come on, no pushing. Hey, no Devontae Adams here. No pushing. We got a couple lanes over here.
Yeah. Everyone's going to the window for it. And that's why when I look at overs, when I look at these, like I remember last year, this is a super random game to think about, but Seattle and Edmonton, I had a big play on the over in that game. When I bet that, if I wanted to bet Edmonton, I would have bet their team total or I would have bet them puck line. You have to bet these games, you know, thinking that the dog is going to do something. And that's how I feel about Chicago tonight, you know, or Montreal tonight as well. I'm curious to see how the game pans out. Obviously, you've got 2 rookie defensemen starting for Montreal. It's going to be really interesting to see, you know, because I'm curious to see if St. Louis, because I know that he doesn't want to get away from his strategies and kind of, I don't think he wants to, because of how the team's expectations are, to keep the defensemen sitting back. But when you've got 2 young defensemen, I mean, one guy didn't even get drafted to the Canadian Hockey League. Arbor Zakai didn't get drafted to the NHL and makes the team out of camp here. He fought a couple times in the preseason. He scored 2 goals, I believe. I mean, there's going to be nerves, but I don't think that St. Louis is going to say, hey, guys, we're playing the Leafs. Make sure you sit back, you know, because that's what happened under Dom Ducharme and under Claude Julien. And I really feel like St. Louis is trying to change that motive around the Canadians as, like, I remember seeing a mic'd up NHL draft of the Canadians at their table at the draft. And they were telling their players, like, hey, we're ready to play open. We're ready to play, you know, ready to score. I mean, you got Sean Monahan. You've got Kirby Doc now on the team. You know, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. There's all kinds of scorers over there. The only thing I'm really worried about is their defense. And that's really it. And you play the Leafs on opening night. Good luck there. You know, it's a tough team to play on opening night, but it doesn't mean they can't score themselves. Sometimes, Jeff, when I look at these games, I wonder, are we going to be able to get a good in-game number? Not this one. I think this is going to be like out the gate. I saw a bet. It was like minus 150. Will there be a goal in the first 10 minutes of this game? I was like, I think there's going to be a goal in the first 10 minutes this game.
Yeah, Mitch and Paulie will get that thing cranked up because they always are good. You know, they get the followers, you know, saying first, because that always used to be the play in Vegas when Vegas is at home. But will there be a goal in the first 10 minutes? And they usually find a way. before we dig into tonight's board, I mean, obviously Rangers 3-1 winner last night, and then hats off Bruce Cassidy, first win as a coach with Vegas. Great game. I did fall asleep in the third period. I finally caught a couple winks, but I did wake up to the end. Christmas, you said it was opening night. Yeah, you had the Rangers, you had the over in that game. Played out, again, 1-1 going into the third. Was it what you expected? Both sides. I mean, Tampa's Tampa. Listen, 80 games. I mean, they're going to be there. We know that. We like the Rangers going in, potentially to come out this year. Back, they had a great season last year. What you saw, anything surprise you?
I wasn't surprised by the fact that it was a goaltending battle. I stayed off the under just in case we saw some late goals, and there was a lot of revenge, right? And it's funny because depending on who you talk to in the media, they'll tell you a different thing of what this coach is thinking, this coach is thinking. I think the Rangers wanted to win a lot more than if it was any other team. I do. I think they wanted to get some revenge over the Lightning, and if Shesterkin plays the way he did, they're going to be comfortable winning 3-1 games. It's really special for them, and their special teams are awesome as well. I mean, the power play. Zibanejad scores a shorthanded goal, a power play goal. All he needed was a 5-on-5 goal for a funny hat trick. I will say Vincent Trocheck, I talked about it with you last week. I think he's a big addition to that team, really big addition. But Tampa Bay, I'll tell people this, that they could literally start 1-9 in the year, and I wouldn't care. I mean, they're that impressive. They're very well built, but they looked pretty good. I wasn't really too surprised by the outcome. That's kind of how I pictured it going. I would have thought that really a New York victory correlated with the under.
And in the late game,
I like the over. Like I said, I was a little bit surprised by how they were struggling to put the pucks in, but then I went to bed pretty happy when I saw that the explosion there in the third period. But I will say that the power play for Vegas is going to be unbelievable. And if you're a shots on goal prop person, Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel, they might be play on like every day. It's ridiculous. There were a couple guys I noticed yesterday. Jacob Trouba was one of them. I think he had like 8 or 9 shots. His prop was plus money at 2.5 for the Rangers. Zibanejad had a bunch of shots, but for the Golden Knights, Eichel, Marchessault, and Pietrangelo are 3 guys I'd look towards for there. But the Kings, and it's nice to see the Kings and Knights have a good little rivalry going there. I was impressed by Jonathan Quick, though. I will say, even though it was a high-scoring contest, Jonathan Quick, he looked to be his old self out there. And my mind is just brave with the props, right? All I think about is the props when I see a player playing so well. His save prop was like 29.5, Jeff. The guy had 29.5, 29 saves, felt like at the start of the third period, right? So impressive game, though. I thought that both teams showed they had depth, but when it comes down to it, that power play is really, really strong for Vegas. I got to ask you, what do you think about Logan Thompson before Vegas? I mean, I think he's a good goalie. I don't get what everyone's saying, how they have goaltender problems. I don't think they have. I think they're better off without Robin Leonard, to be honest with you. He's a great guy. I'm not saying anything bad about any of the stuff that, the freakouts he has on the ice or anything like that. I just think that in general, Logan Thompson is younger, and he might be the new guy in the building.
I just think they've been spoiled with Fleury, and then obviously later you want that binky. I mean, you're talking to the king of the binkies here with Tuukka Rask. Mm-hmm. I mean, you need someone to turn and blame when you're losing, and when you're winning, you don't give them credit. So Vegas has been, I'll use the word spoiled in that. I think they have been.
They have,
and so now they don't like their new shiny toy.
I keep on saying that the Vegas Golden Knights management, they manage their team like I manage my NHL on a video game. I mean, like they're playing a video game out there. I mean, pick up Jack Eichel, get rid of this guy, grab this guy. That's not how you win. You know, it's not. I mean, I would put a good amount of money down that the Seattle Kraken will win the Stanley Cup before the Vegas Golden Knights do, because or at least they'll go farther and they'll make the third round next, the conference finals next before Vegas does, because the way that they build their team is just, it's high contracts, it's big name guys. Like, I don't care that Jack Eichel scored yesterday. You know what they gave up to get Jack Eichel. Getting rid of Alex Tuck was horrible, because he's one of those guys like they call in the NBA a unicorn type player. He's kind of like a different version of a Nazem Kadri. They don't make many of them, right? There's lots of Jack Eichels out there, and I might get roasted by people for saying that, but he's a great goal scorer. He's an awesome player, but I've only really seen him be a superstar in Buffalo. I want to see him be a superstar somewhere else.
All right.
Am I being too hard on Jack Eichel there, Jeff?
No, I don't. I think here's the problem. Vegas doesn't have to put fannies in the seats, because whoever the traveling team is, they're going to bring their fans in, and Vegas has a big enough base. It's an event. You've been there. I've been there. It's an event. You get there early. You take in the atmosphere. They put on a show before the game starts. It's an event. But their first year, they were spoiled. They were right there, and so now they're chasing that cup where, as you said, look what the Avalanche had to do to finally get to where they were last year. Okay. And I think Vegas is doing it exactly opposite.
Yeah, I look back to all kinds of I watch a lot of like media interviews with Nathan McKinnon for the Avalanche, and he talked about how, long summers, right? And just disappointment and where they finished and building that team, and realizing that being a superstar like McKinnon is, that's not enough, right? It's a lot of the times those guys get you to the dance, but you always need that second or third line player to contribute and be the guy, and that's the first year that the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. That third line was the biggest story. Obviously, Kucherov is great, Vasilevsky is great, and Stamkos scored some great goals. But last year, I talked about this guy all the time, Nick Paul. He scored the big goal in Game 7. I think he scored 2 of them in Game 7 against the Maple Leafs. To me, that's what makes a really great team. Being able to have that guy that nobody on your team will be surprised he made the play, but all of us that talk about hockey every day are surprised. I think the Golden Knights might lack that a little bit. I'm not saying they're a bad team. Look, they're a really exciting team, and their power play is awesome. And I think I'm higher on Logan Thompson than many people are. I just don't know if when it comes down to it, and Mark Stone's starting to cool off, Jack Eichel's starting to cool off a little bit, can the secondary guys, step things up?
We talked about tonight's board, so anyone watching and listening, before we tiptoe over to the pigskin here, what do you see tonight?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I really do like that Colorado and Chicago over. I think that the ceremony pregame, the banner raising, and just some changes on that roster in general could cause for some defensive issues. And I'm curious to see how the goaltending goes for them. And Chicago, like I said, lots to play for that team. I think the underdogs, this is really the time where it's like you mentioned, 60 minutes, opening night. Let's see what happens. And really over a larger sample size, when you start to actually see what these teams are like, how they play, how they are defensively. Opening night, you're going to get the best effort. You're going to get the offensive firepower. I think that one goes up and over. As far as the late game, I think we see an upset special with Seattle over Anaheim. I think Seattle takes that next step this year. Like I mentioned, I think they're a team that's growing the right way. They built from the back end, starting at their goaltender, solid blue line, a blue line that doesn't really play offense and jump up in the rush, but protects their own end quite a bit, Jeff. And if you notice watching the Seattle games, notice how big their defensemen are. They're huge. Lots of physical players there, and a lot of people called them crazy when they were pretty much spending all their money on defensemen, but I believe that will pay off for them. Vancouver, Edmonton. How about that game? It's an interesting one. I like the under in that one. Edmonton's such a firepower team. So many great snipers. We've got JT Miller and Besser and Pedersen for Vancouver. I'm going to throw a curveball and think the under 6.5 is the play there. Jack Campbell's in net now for the Oilers. I think that the key for them to in order to improve this year is going to be being more responsible in their own end and working on zone exits. If you notice, a lot of their goals against them last year were just off turnovers, turning the puck over in their own end. So I like under 6.5 there. And then there's the other games that we talked about before, like the Blue Jackets Hurricanes game. Hurricanes have been a team that I've liked for years. My friends joke with me saying I'm a secret Hurricanes fan come playoff time and this year I've kind of switched and I like the New York Rangers to kind of go all the way, but I don't love that price on them. I don't often play plus 1.5s, but if I was doing one on tonight's card, I think I would look Jackets plus 1.5 here to keep things close in that game. But again, if you like the Hurricanes, I would recommend, just like you mentioned, to look at the team total with them. And as far as the Canadiens game goes, I like goals. I do. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it quite yet. If I go team total Habs, team total Leafs, or just full game over. But I think that one, I mean, it's minus 130 DraftKings right now for the 6.5. Of course, you can get 7 at plus money. Be curious. Mitch Marner, by the way, 4-0 his last 4 games to his shot prop over against the Canadiens. I think it was like 7 of last 9 games in general. So that's something to keep in mind as far as those games go. There's just so many ways to make money when there's these minus 400s. It's almost laughable to see, the gambling Twitter posting these parlays where it's Canes and Avs and Leafs. There's just so many ways you can make money besides that.
Well, I was smiling ear to ear when you were talking about the Edmonton Oilers in Vancouver, opening night, Connor McDavid. And I was smiling because I was going to ask you as you were talking about that game, Edmonton overpriced here? Does Bo know hockey tonight, or is it the Connor McDavid show?
Yeah, I think they are. I think that it's a little bit expensive. Vancouver's a good team. They played well under their new coach last year, and I think one of my new terms this year is going to be responsible, being very responsible. And I think that Vancouver is a responsible team. They take care of the puck. They don't turn the puck over that often. They get it out of their end pretty quickly. And they've got a great goaltender. I think that they're going to be okay. And I would definitely argue the key to victory for them is the under. Would you agree? I mean, it's definitely a correlation. Nobody wants to trade goals with the Oilers. So, I think it's a little overpriced there for the Oilers, but I guess going back to, I'll ask you, how much of that price has to do with what they did last year in the playoffs, making that next step? Probably a little bit. I mean, public is going to love them after they proved it. Evander Kane, we saw what he did, getting added to that team. So I think it's a good roster, but Vancouver also, I think they were, this again, off my head, and I don't have any stats for this, but I would argue they were probably top 5 as far as injured and COVID last year. We didn't get to see what this team was capable
of. I agree. It's going to be exciting. I mean, holy shit, tomorrow, I don't even get any sleep tonight, Andrew, because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games tomorrow.
I know. And that night is when I do most of my research. So.
All right, let's jump on over to CFL. Let me make sure this jumps over for us.
Actually, Jeff, if it's all right with you, I hope it's all right. I can talk about it with you a little bit. I'm actually passing completely on CFL this week. I should have mentioned that to you before the show. I apologize. It's one of those weird weeks, like just end of the season. I'm ready for playoffs now, so okay. I'm just sorry about that. I should have mentioned that to you before the show.
No. That's perfect. NFL, MLB. As we wrap this up, how'd you do last weekend in the NFL? Did you tip any toes in the MLB? Listen, not going to be a wise guy here. The Jays.
Oh man, heartbreaking.
You got the gut punch in game 1. You had game 2. I mean, listen, I've been down those lanes. I know exactly how it feels. I can bring back 86 with Buckner. I mean, there's a million things that I know what it feels like. Yeah. And so I'm not here to say, the Jays suck, because the Jays don't suck. You just caught a Seattle team with that momentum. And listen, they had last night's game 1, and now they know how it feels.
Yes.
when Air Alvarez there goes yard there. So
felt good to see it happen to them, Jeff. It really felt good to see it happen to them. Yeah, it was frustrating. It was tough. I mean, so like I was looking forward to. We had obviously Thanksgiving last week here in Canada, like Sunday and Monday at different dinners and stuff, and I was really hoping on kicking back and having a nice meal, and then at night watching the Jays game 3, and never got to happen. I'll tell you, I watched with a bunch of friends on Saturday, and my girlfriend was there with us, and the vibe in the room, you would have thought somebody died. I mean, it was like it went from like fun party atmosphere, a couple casual beers to like funeral home. Like nobody wants to talk to anybody. Everybody's just staring at their phones in disbelief. It was shocking. It was hard to say, but I'll add this as far as the MLB postseason goes. How about the overs? I think they're doing all right so far. You know, even if I won by a half by the hook yesterday with the Dodgers game, these overs are cashing in at a decent clip, and you're actually getting really good numbers with these. So I think it's something to keep in mind when you look at them. And yesterday, I'm not a chalky person. I never, ever have even come on here, I don't think, and given out a minus 190, but I did take the Yankees yesterday. I didn't want to bother with the run line. So it was a good day yesterday, but honestly, my MLB has been so split this season. I'll go 1-1 and I lose the juice. So trying to mix things up with team totals. I had the Mets team total yesterday, so that was nice. But really is team totals and just totals in general really where I'm going to be going this year in the postseason with the MLB. But I'm looking forward to it. I've been enjoying it as a fan, and when you start enjoying as a fan, you really start to just pick and choose your spots. Okay, yeah, this is a wager for me tonight, and the rest of the games I'm just going to watch and enjoy.
100% spot on there. You could have taken the Dodgers team total over 4.5 plus 110. And again, as I stated a little while ago, you could have had the Braves team total over 4.5 plus 120 or 125 yesterday. And it was a gift. Yeah. But again, when you go to cash them, they don't say they're gifts. Okay. So yeah, you thank them very much. The crawl has been going the whole time, my friend. I know it's a busy time of year, the start of NHL, MLB playoffs. We got NFL. So tell everyone what you got going on at Wager Talk, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, over at wagertalk.com is where all my stuff is. We do our hockey show every single weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, about 45 minutes. We run through 4 games and then give a best bet at the end. As far as NFL goes, prop action has been great for me. I went 3-1 last week. The props have been pretty steady. Nick Chubb has been an absolute machine. He's playing your team up in the Mass area this week. I mean, I don't see why he doesn't continue tearing it up. If you like the Browns ever, just don't even bother taking their team to win a game for you. Just take Nick Chubb, because chances are if they have any chance of winning a game, it's going to be because he takes over and does very well. But we have prop packages alone. Everybody does sides and totals, but if you want some props, check it out at Wager Talk. And right now, we have a deal going on, $7 a day for the week, $49 for NHL for 1 week. So trying to get anybody that's interested in my picks, they can kind of dip their toes in the water. Pay $7 a day, and they get every pick I release.
At McInnis Picks at Wager Talk at Sports Mayflower. Jump on over to YouTube to Mayflower Sports. Subscribe. It's free. Always fun, Andrew, jumping on board and talking. There's so much to talk about, and we're just getting warmed up, my brother.
I can't wait. And, when you look at these futures, it reminds me of CFL. We're talking about futures last week in NHL on your show, and then the CFL, we talked about it. It feels like just yesterday. These Wednesdays, they fly by, and it feels like, we just spoke yesterday, and here we are for another week. So we're blessed to be able to do what we do and talk sports and analyze these games. And before we know it, it'll be December or January, and we're giving out some, in-season playoff futures or to miss the playoffs and all that good stuff. So I can't wait.
Myself either. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks, wish everyone a blessed day. Always wager responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up that phone. There is an 800 number. Ask for help. why myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. Have a great day. See you soon.